Let's talk a little O-line here real quick, man. And this has been kind of a topic here lately on a lot of the sports talk shows. I know Wildy and Tausch have covered it a lot with Balaga and Tauscher. I love hearing those guys talk O-line play. But Wes Hockowitz tweeted this out. Welcome to day 2 of Packers minicamp. Rasheed Walker and Nate Hobbs not practicing today, so we'll get another extended look at Jordan Morgan at left tackle today. Walker didn't do team yesterday. So people were trying to figure out, like, why is it that Jordan Morgan was playing left tackle over Rasheed Walker? It may be rehab related. He was definitely with the rehab group today. And if you kind of read that tweet from Wes Hockowitz, it seems like he might have been rehabbing yesterday as well, or instead out of team activities. Now, I will say this. If you were to say, Clayton, paint me a perfect picture, or you tell me what's the perfect scenario of who would play left tackle for the Packers this year. If you could say both players are going to play at the same level, it doesn't matter talent, it doesn't matter none of that. You get the hand pick. That's the dude who's going to be the best player at left tackle. I would want it to be Jordan Morgan. Jordan Morgan, that's no shot at Rasheed Walker. He's a hell of a pass blocker. We know he struggled in the run game a bit. But Jordan Morgan, first-round pick, he played left tackle his entire high school and collegiate career. He has been molded to play left tackle. Now, the other thing, Jordan Morgan's under contract for this year plus 2 more years on a rookie deal, which you guys know are a steal in the National Football League with the new CBA that was negotiated there several years ago. Our boy Rasheed Walker, about to get paid. So you avoid that big paycheck if Jordan Morgan does slide in that left tackle spot. Now, here's the thing. If Rasheed Walker is the better left tackle this year, you let him have at it, you know. Don't try to force Jordan Morgan out there if he's not as good of a player as Rasheed Walker. I think what you're going to get in Jordan Morgan, he might not be quite the pass blocker that Sheed is, but I think it's close enough. And what you'll gain in the run blocking aspect, that'll be your better pick there at left tackle. I want to get your all's take on that because, again, if you're just strictly looking at it from a contractual standpoint, Tim, you want Jordan Morgan to be your dude, I believe, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you can say that without, like you said, it's not a knock on Sheed. You know, it's just kind of the nature of the business, and it's a real concern because we're not talking about the real big contract that needs to be addressed, which is Zach Tom getting a payday here. That's going to be on the minds of Goody and the boys over at 1265. So I think you're right, Clay. In a perfect world, Jordan Morgan steps into that role, and let's be honest, even if he's not quite there yet. He's not going to get better if he's not getting reps, and he's never played left tackle in the NFL. So, the quicker you can get him out there and exposed and, getting that work in, the better his chance at maybe solidifying that starting role in the future. That chance is going to get much greater with the more reps he gets. So, we'll see what happens with Rasheed Walker and his contract,
What do you think, Jacob? Would you rather Rasheed take a step forward and re-sign him and then keep Jordan Morgan somewhere else? Or would you rather see Jordan Morgan kind of step into that role and avoid that huge – because with Rasheed, you're looking at – and it's a wide opinion here, right? Mm-hmm. I can see how some people would say, probably $10 million per. Others are going, no, this dude's going to get paid like a top 5 tackle. That's how well he's pass blocked. If that's the case, you're looking at – it's probably somewhere in the middle, probably somewhere between 18 to 25 million a year on average, I would imagine.
Yeah. Sorry. The chat is just convinced that Daryl is a serial killer. So it is just funny to watch them go at it here. What I will say is that here's what I would want as Tim, you're too quick. Here's what I would want as my preference. Being that this is a contract year from Mr. Rasheed Walker, I believe the dude is going to get his money. He's going to get the bag. He's going to get it pretty good. We probably shouldn't re-sign Rasheed Walker. He's a blessing that we got in the 7th round that absolutely balled out to a point where I don't think anybody could have expected it other than myself because, I love 7th rounders for no reason. They're like lost puppies to me. But in all seriousness, I think that he's going to go somewhere, have a great career, but the amount of money that we would have to pay him is ridiculous, more than the fact that we do have a few guys waiting in the wings that shown us that he needs to have his time in the sun, and 1 for contract reasons, 2, like you said, for his Jordan Morgan specifically for what he's done his whole career, how well he's played, the draft capital we invested in him. I think it just needs that It means that if he's good enough this year to overtake Walker, do it in a heartbeat. But if Walker still is that guy, let him ball out. Let him make another team spend way too much money to take him off our hands in a nice way. And then we have another year of Jordan Morgan developing and really honing his skill at that left tackle position. That would be my number one goal or preference.
Definitely. Vahan in the chat, good to see you, buddy. He says, would you trade Walker for a third or wait to get a fourth comp pick? That's a great question. And let me go to Dave's real quick here. He said, wouldn't that affect his comp pick value if he loses his starting job? Maybe mid-season trade would be more beneficial in your scenario, but we've seen how fast losing a left tackle can hurt us. Yeah, I would not want to trade him for exactly what you said, Dave. If, God forbid, Jordan Morgan does win the left tackle spot, you trade Sheed, and then Morgan goes down, you're kind of screwed. We're right back to where we were last year. You know what I mean? And I do feel like we added some extra depth and value to the offensive line room. So I'm glad you brought that up. As far as the comp pick is going to be determined by how much money he gets in free agency, right? Like that has nothing to do with whether it's a starter or not. Now, if you're saying teams won't pay him top money if he loses his starting job, that's a great point too, right? So that's a very, very well thought out comment there, Dave. It is. Jacob's laughing at the chat. He's not laughing at your comment. That wasn't sarcasm.
No, that's a great one. Just Chuck checking in to make sure. Hey, Daryl, we cool, right? LOL.
Unbelievable. So yeah, it's one of those things that I can see what you're saying there. You kind of lose that value where teams, although man, the tape is the tape. You know, if the team's willing to pay him before he loses that starting job, I can't imagine just because he lost his job, they're now going. Now that's going to be their argument, right, Tim? When they go into negotiations with their agent, like, hey, he wasn't even a starter last year. So it's a great point by Dave. I'm glad you mentioned that, Dave.
I when he put that up, I think that the first thing that popped into my mind was for Vahan was, when do we propose this trade? Is this a trade that happens, like you said, somebody's at midseason after we've seen that Morgan's a dude, and then we're like, hey, let's make this decision right now? Or is there injuries involved? I would not like it right now.
I mean, I think if you're going to trade him, you're going to try and get the third, right? You know, and if you gotta settle for your
fourth. And I saw too, didn't somebody say Deadfish was saying something about Walker could get us a 2027 third round comp pick? I mean, what I don't know. I'm not familiar with the criteria of what designates how high your comp picks go. Is it just depends on how many snaps and how well they played? Is there like a bunch of those metrics?
It's how much money they got in conjunction with how much money. It's basically it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a compensation pick. So if you lost a bunch of people in free agency and they got paid big bucks, that's the true value of a player, is what another team's willing to pay them, right?
Gotcha.
Now let's say that you lost 3 players and they all got paid big contracts, and then you signed, one player in free agency. Well, you're still down 2 significant players. That's how the compensation is determined. Now, if you go out and sign 3 yourself, you might not get any comp picks. It's kind of how that works. That's the way I understand it. I'm with you, Jacob. I'm kind of ignorant in that regard when it comes to how comp picks work as well. So, Vahan said, would you trade Walker for a third or wait and get a fourth comp pick? I would want to hold on to him this year. That's me personally. I don't know. Yeah. Tim, how do you feel about that, man? Because that's nerve-wracking to think your left tackle would go down and you just traded the dude that might arguably be the best swing tackle in all of professional football if you keep a Rasheed Walker, just strictly from the pass blocking.
Yeah, I'm with that. I agree 100% for sure. And we also we can't forget about right guard implications here too. We've talked about Jordan Morgan possibly being tried over there, maybe competing with Sean Ryan, some of the other guys for a right guard spot. So, I don't think you cut and run from Rasheed too soon. I really don't.
Okay, good. I was just going to ask if this was a good segue. And go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, I was just going to say, since you brought that up, Tim, let's think about right guard for a minute. And again, guys, this is mini camp, or mandatory mini camp. This isn't like, hey, here's what the lineups are going to be. We're just going off of the most recent information here, right? Jordan Morgan, left tackle. They had Donovan Jennings at left guard, and Wildy and Tausch talked about this, and they were laughing about it. Wildy asked Matt LaFleur, so we noticed Donovan Jennings playing left guard with the ones last couple of days. I mean, is that something he's taking a step forward? And Matt said, has he? Like he didn't even know that he was playing left guard. Now he could have been playing stupid, but they made it sound like they were convinced like he didn't even recognize he's playing left guard. And Tauscher said, "Well, that ain't good for Jennings if he didn't even know where he was out there."
I think that's Coach LaFleur just having a little fun with the.
Hopefully it was, right? So
Yep.
you got Jordan Morgan at left tackle, Jennings at left guard, Monk at center, Sean Ryan at right guard, and Zach Tom at right tackle. Now let's remove the muddy water here for a second. Okay, let's clear it up. Let's say that Jordan Morgan is your left tackle, your starting left tackle. Left guard is going to be Aaron Banks. He's rehabbing right now, okay? And then Jacob Monk, obviously that's going to be Elton Jenkins once they get the contract squared away. And I don't think anybody's concerned that's not going to get done, to be honest with you. So you're going to go Jordan Morgan, Aaron Banks, and you're going to go Elton Jenkins at center. And then I think it will be Sean Ryan at right guard, and then Zach Tom at right tackle. Now, if Rasheed Walker beats out Jordan Morgan for left tackle, I think Morgan goes back to right guard. Now, I think this is where you were going, Jacob. You correct me if I'm wrong. Let's say you do trade Rasheed Walker, right? If you had not traded him and Jordan Morgan or let's say Sean Ryan goes down at right guard and you still got Rasheed Walker on the roster, you pop Rasheed Walker in at left tackle, you kick Jordan Morgan over to right guard, and you're off and running. Now, it is worth mentioning, too, I'll just say this, that Anthony Belton was getting reps. I think he might have been with the ones a couple of times, but it's definitely with the twos at right tackle. So now is he going to take Zach Tom's job? Absolutely not. But we've talked in the past that if Elton is not in the future, if they don't extend him and they just give him a little more guaranteed money, which many people think that's what they're doing with this whole contract dispute. If that's the case, then who knows, man? Maybe Zach Tom is the center of the future like they talked about last year, where the coaching staff, people get this mixed up, and I'm going to mention it several times throughout the course of the offseason because there's some people that think the coaching staff said Elton Jenkins is a great left tackle, a Pro Bowl left guard, and a Hall or a all Pro left guard and a Hall of Fame center. They didn't say that about Elton. They said that about Zach Tom.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why people were like, "Whoa, is center in the future for Tom?" Now again, let's read the room a little bit. What have they done at offensive line? They went and got Aaron Banks, who is an absolute unit. He is huge, 6'6", 330. They drafted Anthony Belton, right? What is he? 6'6", 330. Zach Tom, 6'4", a little bit smaller. Zach Tom would fit perfectly at center if you have to go that route. So anyway, Jacob, what did that connect with your thought, or were you thinking something totally different there?
No, that was it was trying to figure out what the kind of musical chairs would be if this person goes, and where does this mean? I think I was more interested in if Rasheed just is the guy and he plays at left tackle, like you were saying, does that mean that meaning Morgan slides over to right guard? If that's the case, that means Sean Ryan is the backup center, even though that it looks like Monk has been getting the most of the looks at center. And then, like you said, after this year, does the slate just completely get wiped clean, depending on what happens with Walker, or depending on, still, I guess there's a big question with Elton, not a huge question. Like you said, we probably think that's going to get resolved, but then just the repositioning of what's your best five. And it's not necessarily how much are we paying these guys, even though I think, unfortunately, that may have more of an influence on who starts, but I just want my best five. And if the best five means it's Zach Tom's at center, I'm cool with that. And like you talked about, the size would be almost ideal, like perfect. And it does seem like that they've taken an active, conscious step at saying, hey, we want to beef these dudes up and we want them to be maulers on the offensive line.
Yeah. And again, when you look at Jacob Monk, if he is the center of the future, he's very, very small. He's only like 6'2". So if you compare Jacob Monk to Zach Tom, if that is the center, if that's your choice for a center position 2-3 years down the road, Zach Tom would fit the mold of a bigger center, even though he's not quite as big as Josh Myers or Elton Jenkins. So
if that happened, who do you think hypothetically would move to right tackle? You think they put Anthony Belton or somebody over there? Or?
The fact that they're working Belton at right tackle right now, Tim, that's a great question. I think that's the way I would lean, is like, you draft him in the second round, you let him kind of play backup this year, get his feet under him, and then, God forbid, an injury happen, you get thrust in, you find out what you really got. But you're prepared that if you do move on from Elton Jenkins, I'm just going to be honest, and again, I'm just a stupid fan. I have no inside information. To me, it feels like what the Packers were planning on doing with drafting Anthony Belton was kick Elton Jenkins to center this year. You signed Aaron Banks. You got your guard, your left guard of the future for the next 2 to 4 years. And I think what they were going to do is let Elton play this year at center. Next year, kick Tom to center, and Anthony Belton steps right in the right tackle role. Now, I started hearing, no, he's going to be competing for guard. And again, it's early still, but now we're hearing he's working at right tackle. And it's like, this kind of feels like this is the long-term plan.
Okay.
And if you're thinking, okay, I don't want to get rid of Elton Jenkins next year, I completely understand. But if you don't touch the contract and you really force him to go out there and play this year, you cut bait next year, you free up $20 million in cap space if you just move on from Elton next year. And guess what?
Now we know why Big E feels the way he feels right now.
Right. Yeah.
It's about security. Now, the thing that I don't want to say fully disagree, I kind of disagree with like Tauscher and Bulaga is they're going, this isn't about getting an extension. This is about getting sweeten the pot a little bit, get a little bit of guaranteed money this year, right? And that could very well be true. But I think Elton's also looking up like, hey, man, how about y'all commit to me for the next 3 years of playing center? And I just don't know if Goody DiCaprio is willing to do that, seeing that, Elton's about to turn 30. So, and again, I'm just kind of speculating, but
I think that's a fair speculation because if you think about it logically, the scenario you just played out, that if you want to sit and wait just a little bit on the Tom contract, do you try to negotiate it as more of a center based than a left or a right tackle? You know what I mean? As far as AKA, do they do the same thing they did to Elton, but just in a little bit different maneuver? You know what I mean? Where it's like, hey man, we want to kick you inside. Therefore, this contract maybe ain't going to be right tackle type money, but we'll maybe give you more long term. I don't know. Does that make sense in your logic at all? Or
yeah, I think there's this blueprint. Like there's a thing that GMs call modeling the roster. Okay, not your kind of models that you're into, Jacob. We're talking about modeling the roster. Okay. And when you model the roster out, and this is GM 101 right here, this is the stuff that Bill Walsh wrote about in his book back when he was the general manager and the head coach of the 49ers. This is stuff that Michael Lombardi talked about studying under Bill Walsh. You model the roster out and go, okay, here's our best roster or our best starting lineup this year. But 2 years down the road, we want to be projected to go in this direction. And it's all about rotating those heavy contracts out of the rotation. You bring in a younger, quote, hopefully better player, cheaper. That's the overall goal. So at the end of the day, we know Aaron Banks is going to get paid pretty good money for the next 2 years. He's under contract for 4, but you guys know how that's structured. You could get out of it in year 3 if you wanted to. It's more convenient to get out in year 4. So let's just call it a 3-year deal. So that's big money there. Rasheed Walker, rookie contract, you probably don't want to re-sign him if you're modeling the roster out. Elton Jenkins turning 30, you probably want to cut bait in a year or 2 so you're not paying someone who's 31, 32 years old big money. Sean Ryan, I think we all would agree, he's probably not going to get an extension unless he takes an extremely team-friendly deal. Zach Tom is the dude who's about to get the bag. So now what you've got is 2 guys who are getting paid damn good money on the offensive line, in Aaron Banks and Zach Tom, right? You want to try to stay away from having to pay that third offensive lineman big money, And in that case, if that's how you roll, guess what? You've got Jordan Morgan stepping into left tackle. He's still on a rookie deal. And guess what happens in year 3 of Aaron Banks' contract? Jordan Morgan's up for a contract now. Now you look to cut bait with Aaron Banks. You pay Jordan Morgan. You got Zach Tom and Jordan Morgan are now your golden gooses, right? I think that's how it's set to play out. But again, you look up and you got enough cap space and you feel pretty cushiony there. Why not just why not try to field the best 11 out there, no matter how much the price is? That's just not how general managers look at it, So got Vahan in here with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. You're too kind. He says, thank you for all the info. Appreciate it. No, thank you, man. Thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for asking great questions and making comments in the chat. Thank you for the dono there. So it's fun to, people get bored talking about offensive line play because in this fantasy world we live in where everybody's, we're all guilty of it. We're going to host a fantasy league this year. It's going to happen. People love receivers. They love the running backs. They love the quarterbacks and the hybrid tight ends and all these things. But I'm telling you, man, you look up at who wins Super Bowls, it's in the trenches, boys. And you got to make sure you've got the right guys in place. And the number one way of doing that is to massage that salary cap. Chuck Jagger's mock draft. No chance, Chuck. Get out of here with that. Hey, soon enough, it will be draft season again, though. I promise you that.
I think he wants a mock fantasy football draft.
I was going to say, hey, you know what? if there's ever a night coming up in the next couple months when we're in the dead zone and Clayton doesn't want to go live on like a Friday, I think me and Emilio should do ourselves a fantasy football mock.
There you go. You should, man. We'll watch the subs disappear. Ron Sample in the chat.
Don't put that name in my mouth right there.
Ron Sample in the chat says Monk shows 6'3", 308 on RAS. Thank you so much for that, Ron. I heard people saying 6'2". If the RAS card says 6'3", then that's what I always go off of because that's the combine measurements typically. However, I was going based off of what Wildy said too, and they were asking, like, Tauscher was asking Wildy, how does Monk look out there? And Wildy kind of made fun of him, like, they're not even doing anything right now. I mean, we seen the video of Jordan Morgan, right? Looked like he was steering a fake car, like he was steering Emilio's.
I'm glad you said that because I saw that. I said, please tell me that's not his off the ball move. Like, and you look at what we were watching. Really, what we were watching was Jordan Love doing passing drill. It looked like, take the snap, get quick release kind of thing. So it wasn't really an O lineman drill as much as it was a quarterback drill. But yeah, that did not look great at all.
Just one more thing quick. Where I don't see any Glover highlights. Can we get to the Glover highlights?
Yep. Emilio will be here in a little bit.
Emilio. I'm sorry, Julio.
Yeah.
Julio right now will be saying, I don't know if you noticed, but look who's the backup right tackle on this depth chart from our lads.
Oh,
that's what he would be saying.
All right, then.
I'm with you, Jacob. I can't buy into the Travis Glover hype just yet, man. Ron Sample, though, back to what he said there, and the point I was trying to make about Wildy, we get off track so damn easy on this show. Wildy said, I wouldn't have it any other way, to be honest with you. Wildy said, I'll tell you this, when you see him with the offensive line out there, he looks very, very small compared to everybody else. So that's why I mentioned that. And I've heard people say 6'2", but thank you, Ron. Again, the difference between 6'2" and 6'3", not a huge difference. Now, 6'2" to 6'4", significant, right?
Sure.
So, yeah. But, yeah, Lampkin, I love that Daryl brung this up. Daryl in the chat said Lampkin's the shortest offensive lineman. That dude was like 5'10", 5'11". You guys remember us talking about that? Yeah, and he was like 270 pounds, too.
Wasn't he Duke? I thought he was a guard from Duke, I thought.
Is either Duke or UNC.
Maybe UNC. Yep, I'm thinking of the colors.
I think it was UNC, and then it was Jacob Monk came from Duke, I believe.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
And what's crazy is, like,
really well.
Yeah, some people really, really like Emory. Was it Emory Hunt that's on the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, kind of one of his draft specialists? Yeah. He said, that's my best center in the draft. I about spit out my Mountain Dew that day. I was like, what is this guy smoking? Now, I think he went undrafted, I believe. I could be wrong. But I know this. If Lampkin was 3 or 4 inches taller, he would have been one of the top centers taken in the draft for sure. So, yep. Anything else on offensive line here that you guys – want to hit on? Matter of fact, I'll pull this up real quick as we've got just a picture of Jennings out here. I just like sharing this stuff. And Mike Spofford, one of the GOATs of covering the Packers here. You got a picture of Donovan Jennings out there. Somebody in the chat help me out. What's Donovan Jennings' size, his measurables? How tall and how much does he weigh? Because he looks just as big as these guys that are out here right now. And again, you look at Jacob Monk right there. He don't look tiny, does he?
6'4".
I thought he was 6'5", 305.
23.
Oh wow!
So he's a pretty good sized boy then.
Well, depending on where you look here.
See, real quick. I mean, I thought, again, like Tim said, I thought it was more of a Matt giving some bombastic side eye. More, just some sarcasm. Exactly. Because I really do. I like Donovan Jennings quite a bit. I can't remember. I thought he was maybe a University of South Florida guy, something like that. Was surprised with where we got him and kind of felt like more of a steal type guy that could have some potential. But then also, what do you think about the lack of any? Is John Williams been around? Is he even? That was a 7th round guy, right? Like, where'd he go? What's going on?
I don't think he's even been into camp yet.
That's
Tim,
weird.
have we heard any? Has somebody help me out in the chat?
Cincinnati, I believe. John Williams. I think that's him.
Because Tim, I think last time you brought it up, like, hey, maybe he's trying to finish his degree or something. Maybe it's something college related, like before he gets into, because it's not training. If he's not here at training camp, something's up. We might be looking at another one of those draft picks that happened before with Goody, where the offensive lineman literally retired his first year in the league. So it's really, really strange. There it is, Deadfish. Jennings is 6'4". 323. So that was right, Tim. You had it right, brother.
Sweet.
So, pretty decent size, right?
Yep.
So, especially for guard. So, and then Tom is 6'4", 305. is what Ron said. And that just feels like a center, does it not, boys?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It feels like a center. So let's see here. I think he was rehabbing today, talking about Williams. I hope you're right, Ed Madden. Maybe he was. Maybe he was there. I haven't heard anybody talk about it, though, for sure. And he gets a 7th-round pick. Like I'm saying that Rasheed Walker's anchored left tackle for the last few years, too, a 7th-round pick.
We don't usually do super in-depth into the rehab groups anyway, right? Like